Hello and welcome to another episode of Science Corner with Konstantine. I am still Konstantine. This is not my usual corner. I'm filming in a new spot. This is actually my real apartment. This is not my childhood home or the science lab. This is where I actually live. I don't think I've ever filmed here before. I was trying to figure out where the best spot would be for the lighting. I'm actually in my kitchen. No, my kitchen is over there. There's a garbage can here. My apartment is not as ideal for this, but I like it. It's a good change. Change is good. I mean, it's good. It's a good apartment. I've just never filmed from it before. So welcome to another episode of Science Corner with Konstantine. That's me. Today, we are learning more about cells. We're going into the details. We're going to do a little bit more detail about cells and what is in them. And today you will learn the age-old truth that the mitochondria is in fact the powerhouse of the cell.
The mitochondria is in fact the powerhouse of the cell. The powerhouse of the cell.
And what that even means.
And we're back again. Today we're learning about the parts of the cell. What are all those little things in the cell? What do they look like? What do they do? What are they called? We are learning about that today. But before we go any further, we need to know that there are a bunch of different types of cells: plant cells, animal cells, bacterial cells, protozoan cells, and all of them have organelles. Organelles are tiny structures inside of cells that each do a job, like the organs in your body do a job. Different types of cells have different organelles, but all cells have a cell membrane. The cell membrane is a structure that surrounds every single cell. It decides what goes in and what goes out. It's sort of like the cell's security system. All cells also have this stuff called cytoplasm. Cytoplasm translates to cell jelly. It's not really an organelle, but it's what all of the organelles float in. It's made of mostly water, and it's a jelly-like substance that contains all of the organelles for the cell. Let's take a tour of an animal cell. So the first major organelle we're going to talk about is the nucleus. The nucleus is kind of the information center for the cell. It contains all of the DNA, so it controls what the cell does and what it makes. It's surrounded by a structure called a nuclear membrane. The nuclear membrane controls what goes in and out of the nucleus, just like the cell membrane controls what goes in and out of the cell. The next organelle we're going to talk about is the nucleolus. It's inside the nucleus, and it makes structures called ribosomes, which are really important, and we're going to talk about them in just a minute. Our next organelle is the endoplasmic reticulum. Not only is it fun to say, but it's also really important for transporting materials within the cell, mostly fats and proteins. There are two types of endoplasmic reticulum: smooth endoplasmic reticulum and rough endoplasmic reticulum. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum mostly transports fats, and rough endoplasmic reticulum mostly transports proteins. Rough endoplasmic reticulum has ribosomes on it. There, I said it again. Ribosomes. What even are they? Ribosomes have arguably the most important job in the cell. They turn information from DNA into proteins. These proteins are used both inside and outside of the cell, and the human body couldn't really function without them. We call what the ribosomes do protein synthesis, or making proteins. The next organelle we're going to talk about is the Golgi apparatus, or Golgi bodies. The Golgi apparatus packages and transports those proteins to be sent either around the cell or outside of the cell. And an individual package is called a Golgi body. They also store the proteins to use later. And now it's time to talk about the famous mitochondria. So, mitochondria, you may have heard, are the powerhouse of the cell. Basically what that means is they turn food into energy. So the cells use glucose or sugar for their food, and the mitochondria use cell respiration to turn that into energy, which the cell knows as a molecule called ATP. Vacuoles are our next organelle. The function of the vacuole is pretty simple. It's storage. It stores water and it stores waste. But vacuoles look different depending on what type of cell you're working with. In a plant cell, vacuoles are really big, and they give the cell its structure. In an animal cell, vacuoles are pretty small. Just depends. The next structure that we'll talk about are lysosomes. Lysosomes are important because they get rid of the bad stuff. They use digestive enzymes to get rid of wastes in the cell. Our next organelle is sometimes called a centriole or might be called microtubules. These are only in animal cells, but what they do is they give the cell structure when it's time to reproduce. So when cells divide in cell division, the centriole and microtubules help them do that. So far we've mentioned a couple of differences between plant and animal cells, mostly that plant cells have a really large vacuole in the middle, in that only animal cells have centrioles, but there are some organelles that are only in plant cells and not in animal cells. The first of those organelles is the cell wall. The cell wall surrounds the cell membrane and protects the plant cell. It gives it its stiff structure. Animal cells are kind of squishy. Plant cells are a lot more rigid and stiff. The other structure unique to plant cells are chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are where photosynthesis happens. That's when plants use sunlight and turn it into food, or glucose sugar. Chloroplasts contain a green substance called chlorophyll, and that's why plant leaves are green. Let's finish our tour with a general overview of what these organelles look like. There's the cell membrane, there's the nucleus with the nucleolus inside. Here's our smooth endoplasmic reticulum and our rough endoplasmic reticulum. Remember, the rough endoplasmic reticulum has ribosomes. Ribosomes also float around in the cytoplasm. Golgi bodies, or Golgi apparatus, kind of look like sacs that store proteins for transport in and out of the cell. And lysosomes and vacuoles are both kind of shaped like bubbles in the cell. Remember, mitochondria turn food into energy. They kind of have an oval shape. And centrioles, or microtubules, sometimes look like little suns, and they sometimes look like stacks of lines. Depends on the person drawing the cell, honestly. Now let's review the structures in a plant cell. Remember, the plant cell starts with an outside cell wall that surrounds the cell membrane. That cell wall really gives the plant cell its shape. The other thing that gives a plant cell its shape is a really large vacuole in the middle. Plant cells also have a nucleus and a nucleolus. And they have endoplasmic reticulum, smooth and rough. Remember, rough has ribosomes, and ribosomes are also in the cytoplasm. Plant cells have Golgi bodies and lysosomes. Plant cells turn food into energy in their mitochondria, but they get their energy from the sun using their chloroplasts. And don't you ever forget, you learn about cells because you are made of cells. And when you understand cells, you understand yourself. Thanks for watching Science Corner with Konstantine.
Got this, my kitchen, this garbage can is here. Some like fun stuff. I do have one plant that I've kept alive for about a month now. It's good. It's white wall. It's good. You know, it's a nice, clean. It's a good backdrop.